Coming to you from the home of the mini trees, inspirational, motivational, so come along with us.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Pixel Talk. This week's edition brings you an interview with Mr. Dennis Woodside, the COO of Dropbox, Daniel Foster's sports update, and Shannon Madden's recap of American politics. Hello, my name is Tej Singh, and I'm representing Stanford Online High School students from around the globe. So, hello world. Alongside us here today is Mr. Dennis Woodside. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Dropbox, as well as the former CEO of Motorola and Senior Vice President of Google's Americas Operations. He's also, in fact, very impressively competed in the Ironman triathlon 7 times and qualified for the 2015 World Championships. But we'll get to that later. So, Mr. Woodside, should we start with something all high schoolers are interested in?
Sure.
So many of us, or even a lot of the younger adults, wanted to know what was the best part of your high school experience, and is there anything you could have improved upon, or you could have changed one thing?
I would say 2 things. We had an advanced science program that dealt with physics, biology, chemistry, which was actually quite interesting because it tried to bring a bunch of different topics together. It never got you never got bored because things were changing all the time. That was pretty cool. And then the second thing was I was a member of, I did team sports. I played football actually. And although I didn't stick with football, it did teach me a lot about leadership and working in a team. And I've taken that later in life in lots of different ways.
And so, relating off that, you did lots of activities, and lots of kids in today's society also do lots of different things, but parents and kids are equally stressed with so much stuff to do. You being a father of 2 kids, do you have a magic bullet, or do you have any advice for other parents how to manage music?
That's a hard question. I think that so I have a freshman in high school and a 7th grader, and they are incredibly busy. I would say on some days they're working much longer hours than I do with homework and everything else. I think the only magic bullet I would say is we try to encourage them to follow things that they're excited about and they're interested in, and then support them in taking those things as far as they want. So, my daughter, for example, has played soccer for a long period of time, and she plays soccer almost year round, and we really encourage her to do that. And she's gotten quite good, and she likes that. But this year, she decided also that she wanted to try out in the school play, and so we encouraged that. And my son's been into computers from a very early age, so we've encouraged him to get involved with Udacity and some other things. So I think it's more about helping kids find what excites them and what motivates them, and never like forcing anything on a child. People will find what they're passionate about on their own with a little bit of encouragement.
So relating this back to your own experience, if you had suppose 10 hours extra per week for when you're in high school, was there one skill or in retrospect that maybe you think that you would have learned or that you would have wanted to acquire?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, we had a computer. This is in the 80s. We had the Apple IIe, and the Apple IIe had one of those old telephone modems where you literally put the phone on a cradle and it connected, and you couldn't do anything really. But I started learning basic programming, and my mom had the foresight to take me to a course, but the course was 25 minutes away. And so we could only really go once a week for a couple hours. So it was very slow to learn anything. And the reward from investing all that time, it just took a long time to get anywhere and to be able to actually build anything. So I think the one thing that I would love to do if I could go back, I never really learned to program. I would love to have been able to use some of the tools that kids have today to teach themselves programming and to learn whether it's programming for Android or any other language. That's one thing that I definitely missed.
And so this is especially a relevant topic in today's society because they say the future is STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, but not many high schools support this. So if you could eliminate one course in high school, the curriculum, and replace it with one, what would the new replaced course be?
What I don't know what you would necessarily eliminate. I think.
Eliminate, but what you would replace it with, or like in detail, or.
Well, I think programming is it's a very useful skill because it teaches you logic. It teaches you everybody growing up today probably will need to operate 4 or 5 different devices that are connected to the web at all points in time. It could be a watch, your mobile device, your tablet, your computer. It is very helpful to understand how those things work. And even if you just have a rudimentary understanding of Java or Python, that can be really helpful to understand how computers work and how they function. So I think I would have an introductory computer programming course of some sort.
And related to programming, lots of kids in today's society, like they want to be engaged in this and they know it's important, but they don't know where to start. So where would you suggest, whether it be at the school level or through Udacity, Udemy, edX, like, or just going to
you literally can simply Google how to learn Python or how to learn computer programming. There's so many great online resources out there, that some of which are free. You can go to YouTube and learn quite a bit just from YouTube. I think if you're just first getting into it, just trying to discover what are the different languages out there, what are the basic principles of computer software. Those things I think are very accessible on the web. Just start with Google.
And so transitioning to more of your career, what is one thing that you learned throughout your lifetime, but you couldn't necessarily have learned through a textbook, so experience-wise?
Well, I think the one thing that's really interesting about working in technology is that a lot of the traditional rules of how careers are built and businesses are built are just accelerated like 10x in a fast-moving technology environment. And so if you think about, 10 years ago, nobody thought that they could build a career in mobile devices or mobile computing, because there was no such thing as mobile computing. And today there are 3 billion people out there with mobile devices, and there must be millions of people whose jobs depend on that industry. So the products that people build, products like Dropbox, they can touch hundreds of millions of people very quickly. We have over 400 million people registered to use Dropbox. I think that what that then means is that if you're a person with an idea, you come to a company like Dropbox, you can have a very big impact. You can create a new feature that's launched, and literally 500 million people can be using it in a period of weeks or months, which is pretty exciting. And your friends can be talking about it, and you can be improving lots of lives. So I think that that's very different than 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
And so what is your daily life like at the office? So is there anything like a daily routine, or what some of the challenges you face? Just so, because you hold such a high position, and maybe your viewers want to know what it's like to be an executive.
So a lot of it is working with teams and helping the teams that I work with become more effective at what they're doing. So I could be working with a marketing team on a new advertising campaign for Dropbox. I could be working with our sales team who's working with a large customer, or meeting a customer like the CIO of a large business that's a business customer of Dropbox's. I could be talking to a partner, like we have partners like Dell Computer and Toshiba and Vodafone. I could be speaking with them about how we can make their services better by including Dropbox in their products. I spend a lot of time recruiting and hiring people. We're growing quite fast here. We've added over 1,000 people in the last 18 months. So a big part of my job is finding talent, finding smart people who are ambitious and have a lot of energy and have the right experiences and are excited about working at Dropbox. So that's a little bit of a sense as to how I spend my time.
Yeah, and so transitioning to our lighthearted segment, what do you find interesting every day? Like, for example, I was reading Dropbox has unbelievable benefits, like with the food. What's your favorite food, or what do you like best working at Dropbox, like one of the perks? So
well, I think the most exciting thing is you come into work and people are really excited to be here. Everybody at Dropbox. They joined a fast-growing startup. They believed in the mission of the company. Our mission really is to simplify the way people work together. And if you think about your life today, chances are, we're going to create a video file here. You're going to need to save it. You're going to want to share it. Dropbox is typically a way that people save information and share information. And that's a universal need, right? So the people who come to work every day here are motivated to impact the lives of the 3 billion people who are connected today and potentially 7 billion people who will be connected someday. And everybody's going to have this problem. They're going to create large files. Like my children are going to have a video and photo library of their entire life, and they're not going to want to throw anything out. They have all their homework assignments. They're not going to want to throw any of that out. They're going to need to share all of that. So the most exciting thing for me is coming to work and working with a lot of people who share that sense of mission and share that idea that a small group of people can impact, like we're only 1,500 people, which sounds big, but we can impact and touch hundreds of millions of lives. That's really exciting, and you don't get that in a lot of other places.
Yeah, and there's so many responsibilities and such great things you're doing. So how do you find time to do that along with your impressive feat of training for a triathlon, since it involves like 3 different skills? Did you start like in high school or later in life, how do you?
Yeah, so I started, after high school, I went to college and I wasn't big enough to play football, so I started rowing, and I wound up on the rowing team, and that got me into endurance sports. And then I graduated, and you can't really row it's hard to row outside of college. So I started biking, and a friend said, you should try triathlon. So that got me into triathlons like over 20 years ago. And I've kind of been going on and off with them depending on, like, when we had kids. I didn't really do a lot. We lived overseas for a while. But basically I just structure my day so that early in the morning, I get up and I do something. I have a plan, but I do either bike or run or swim pretty much every day. And it clears my mind. It gets me concentrated. I get my workout in, and then I'm good for the day. Yeah, and so if you could, just another interesting question, if you could be the president of any country other than the US for 5 years, which would it be? I'm excluding the US because in that case, you might have to compete with Donald Trump. Well, I think I would say India, just because I think India is undergoing such an incredible transformation from an economy that didn't have a very large middle class. Now, the middle class is growing incredibly quickly. An economy where most people were not connected to the web, and most people didn't even have telephones, to one where everybody's moving to a mobile device. Many of those mobile devices have data plans, although there's lots of challenges with that. So basically skipping the wired version of the internet altogether, where you have these really innovative commerce models, companies like Flipkart, which are essentially creating Amazon, but also creating this big distribution network where they're actually getting products to individuals using hundreds of thousands of people to deliver them. Very innovative place, I think. And I think it'll be interesting to see what happens there over the next couple of years. But they already have a pretty good leader, so I don't think the odds are very good that I'm going to be able to take that role. Yeah. And so if you could be a part of any historical event, either current or in the history, which one would it be? Well, that's a great question. I think it would have been pretty cool to have been involved in some way in the genesis of the electrical power industry, because in many ways it parallels what's gone on with technology here. Here you have, new technology, electricity. There's clearly a lot of untapped potential, a lot of ideas, but how do you create an industry around it? How do you transport electricity? How do you generate electricity? You have to build all of these things from scratch. And you saw that with mobile computing. You're seeing that with electric cars now. So what Tesla's doing is pretty fascinating. They have to build from scratch a transmission network, a distribution network for electricity, a service network for their automobiles, an entire supply chain that's oriented around an electric car. So I think some of those parallels are pretty cool. Yeah, it's amazing what the company's doing. Yeah.
So if you had a Staples easy button, what task would you delegate to it?
What task is super hard that I have to do all the time?
It could be something like driving your kids to work, to soccer practice, or anything. Sure.
Well, how about this? Every week we sit down and we look at where the business is and we try to understand how's our revenue and our traffic and all those things. And it's actually it's kind of hard, and you have to get really into the detail of it and really understand it. If that were easier, that would make my life a lot easier.
Yeah, and so it's a tradition of Pixel Talk to end these interviews with a light segment called This or That.
Okay.
A series of fun questions in which the guest has to choose between two choices. So would you be willing to participate?
Sure.
Okay, so gift cards or cash?
Cash.
This is a question that lots of our parents have been asking. Private school or public school?
Oh, that's so hard. I would say private school.
If you watch any of them, the NFL or the NBA?
NFL.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Netflix or YouTube?
YouTube.
Facebook or Twitter?
Facebook.
Money or free time?
Free time.
And I save the best for last. iPhone or Galaxy?
Neither. I'm a Nexus person.
Okay, really cool.
Motorola Nexus.
Motorola Moto X. That's pretty cool. What you're doing with the Moto X, the Moto G, and the customization. And so this brings us to the end of Pixel Talk. We'd like to thank Mr. Woodside for graciously sparing his time and inspiring not only the Stanford OHS community, but those around the US and perhaps even the world. So thank you so much for coming on our show.
All right, good luck.
Hi, I'm here to update you on current U.S. politics. In the recent Nevada caucuses, of the initial 17 Republican candidates, the 5 remaining in the primary competed for the votes. Donald Trump received 45.9% of these votes, with Senators Rubio and Cruz following closely with 23.9% and 21.4% respectively. Dr. Ben Carson followed with 4.8% of the votes, and Governor Kasich received the last 3.6%. Hillary Clinton, with 52.6% of the vote, won the Nevada Democratic Caucus. The previous senator defeated Bernie Sanders, who had 47.3% of the vote. In the next Republican debate, on February 25th, Trump will go in as frontrunner, and it will prove interesting to see if Dr. Ben Carson and Governor Kasich are still in the race. With the South Carolina Democratic primary coming up, the toss-up between Sanders and Clinton makes it hard to determine who will come out on top.
Hey guys, it's Daniel, back with this week's Pixel Talk Sports Update. A lot is happening in the world of sports. Earlier this month, the NFL finished up their season with the Broncos walking away with the championship. The NBA is on the other side of the All-Star break now. College basketball is getting closer and closer to March Madness. And baseball spring training has officially begun. The best college football players are coming together this week at the NFL Combine to show the scouts what they've got. The 2015-16 season just finished, but we're already on to the next one. In the NBA, the most talked about team coming out of the All-Star break is without doubt the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors have a chance to make history this season, as they're still on track to break the single-season wins record. March Madness begins in only 3 weeks, with Villanova, Kansas, Virginia, and Oklahoma rounding out the top 4 for the time being. Finally, in tennis news, the world's top players are gearing up for the biggest non-Grand Slam tournament of the year down in Indian Wells, California. The tournament begins in just a couple weeks. A couple wild cards that have already been announced are Juan Martín del Potro, a former US Open champ, but a guy who's recently dropped outside of the top 1,000 due to injuries, and Taylor Fritz, who's one of the young Americans surging up the rankings. Now ranked 102 in the world, this 18-year-old just reached his first top-tier professional tournament final in Memphis. The Indian Wells tournament should be a fun one. Alright, that's all for this week. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Until then,